private funeral for George Floyd begins in hours in Houston. Democratic Congresswoman Karen Bass will be there. She is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Congresswoman, thank you very much for being with us. I know this funeral will be an emotional moment for many Americans. It's also in some ways the impetus for this extensive new police reform package that you're a big part of putting on the floor in the House of Representatives. Just so people can see some of what's in it. It calls for a ban on chokeholds, National Police Misconduct Registry, incentives for states to mandate racial bias training, restrictions on transfer of military-grade equipment, and it goes on and on. Not on this list is what I think one of the most significant things here, which is lowering the bar for the standards at which police can be prosecuted for things, changing the standard from a willful violation of a suspect's right to a reckless disregard. Why is that important?
Well, because right now it's very, very difficult for people who have been injured to sue the department. Just like it's difficult to prosecute, it's difficult to fire a police officer. And one of the things that we're calling for overall in the bill that you didn't mention is really raising the level of policing in the United States, having police officers certified, having national standards. Why is it that a chokehold is okay in one city and not in another? Having police officers having continuing education and getting recertified, like many professions. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, a beautician. A lot of people have to go through certification. So raising the standard, and I think that will make a huge difference. One of the things that we're really trying to address is police culture. I don't believe that any police chief wants to hire somebody that has been accused of abuse or inappropriate behavior from another department. But right now, that's the way it is. So we believe that there should be a national registry. Tamir Rice would have graduated high school this month. He was killed when he was 12 years old by an officer that had been fired from another department, and he lied on his application. And so raising the standards, looking at policing in general in the United States, and lifting up the level.
I've read through the legislation. I did not see any calls to defund the police or dismantle the police. Why isn't that in there?
Well, because I don't think that that's the appropriate thing to do. But one of the things that is in the bill that I think speaks to that is grants that would be given to community-based organizations so they could come up with innovative solutions to address problems in the community. And I also believe that this helps police officers. For example, you often hear from police officers, they're not social workers. Why should they have to deal with an issue related to homelessness or mental illness? We have a jail in Los Angeles that the majority of the people inside the jail actually are mentally ill. And so maybe there is an opportunity now to look at what goes on in communities, and maybe there are different solutions rather than policing. And so the opportunity to have the grants to community-based organizations, I think, is a good start. I think the other thing that activists are getting at is the balance of budgets in cities. And so why is so much money spent on law enforcement? Well, maybe if we addressed some of the social and economic issues, we wouldn't have to spend so much money. And so the call to reinvest, that certainly happened in my own city, where the mayor has cut the budget, but he's going to reinvest it in other problems and solving issues in the community, rather than looking at the police to solve every problem. You hear police officers complain about that all the time.
The president hasn't commented on your extensive proposals. Instead, he's seizing on what you're hearing from some in the grassroots, the calls to defund and dismantle. He says the radical left Democrats have gone crazy.
Well, I think what the president is seizing on is the fact that he knows his poll numbers are dropping. And so he wants to attach a slogan from protesters around the country to the Democrats. I don't know whether they're Democrats or not. And so I think that he knows that he has completely mishandled the pandemic, and he has no idea how to handle what's going on in the streets right across the street from the White House. That's why he's barricaded himself in with this big, huge fence.
Now, there are a number of things in here which I've actually heard Republicans propose or discuss in the past. Not all of it, but some of it. Do you have any specific Republican buy-in yet? And what have you heard specifically from the White House on this proposal?
Haven't heard anything from the White House. We introduced the bill just about 24 hours ago, so the work begins. We did begin discussions, though, with Republicans a couple of weeks ago when we were at the conceptual stage, and I think that there is interest. Now we'll see. We have to do the work. We have our first hearing tomorrow. We'll vote on the bill in committee next week. So we have our work to do, and I'm looking forward to doing it. I think this is a very positive bill. I think there are lots of things in the bill that my Republican colleagues can support. But here's what's most important. Protests are taking place in 50 states around the country. Polling is overwhelmingly in support of the protesters and believe that they have valid concerns. I think our legislation is a major step forward to addressing those concerns.
What will it say to you if the White House doesn't reach out to at least discuss some of these proposals?
Well, I don't know that I have the expectation that they would do that, but I think we need to move along with the process, and I'm sure that they will be engaged at some point. And you know that we drafted the bill along with the Senate, so Senators Harris and Booker have introduced the exact same bill there.
Representative Karen Bass.
And we have over 200 co-sponsors in the House.
No doubt it is likely to pass the House of Representatives. What happens after that? That's the open question at this point. Congresswoman, a pleasure to have you on this morning. Thank you for being with us. I know you'll be attending the George Floyd funeral later today. We appreciate your time.
Yes.